Are you looking for some quick and easy Valentines you can make today? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get started. Today I am working with a collection from Michael's Recollections. I know this collection won't be available to everyone, but it's really impossible to find a paper that is. I like to mix it up. I like to use paper from smaller companies from different parts of the world, and sometimes from big box stores too, so that everyone has a chance to find a paper pad that is actually available to them if they want to kind of work from the same things that I am. This particular paper pad has a lot going on, but I'm going to just make 10 cards today. I'm not going to use the whole paper pad. It has some foiling sheets, which are great because you can use them outside of Valentine's Day or use them to supplement your Valentine's cards. And then it has these transparencies as well that are decorated. I'm going to make 10 cards. I'm going to use 5 of the sheets of pattern paper, so there'll be a ton left. And I could keep going. I could use up the entire paper pad if I wanted. But honestly, my one sheet wonder is probably not great for like solid foiled paper or the transparency papers. Those ones I think are better suited for, I love to use the foil papers for die cutting and the transparencies for shaker cards. But if you wanted to go ahead and use all the pattern paper, like the traditional pattern paper, then you could keep going and just add more sheets. What I'm doing here is I have picked out 5 of my paper busting, no scrap, one sheet wonder, whatever you want to call them, templates. These are all available on my website, jesscrafts.com. You can download them as PDFs and then print them off. You can then add them to these envelopes I got here on Amazon. I'll link you to them. I like them because of the way they close. They're flexible without being too flexible. My paper doesn't get crinkled inside of them. And then they hold all my pieces pretty securely because of that flap and the Velcro closure. So I look at the template and I think what kind of paper I think would go well with it. Sometimes if a paper, and many of these do, have a clear top and bottom, like the XOXOs, if you turn it on its side, they're not going to read right anymore. So some of the templates, you need to be able to turn part of the paper a different way to make the template work because there's going to be no scraps left over. So whatever piece of paper needs to work as prescribed. And therefore, that's kind of like what is helping guide my decisions and also what I think will look good. So sometimes a piece of paper has a really big pattern and it needs a template that has bigger pieces and not little tiny strips, for instance. Once I've picked out all my pattern papers, then I am ready to think about what I want to do for my sentiments. For my main focal images, I'm going to use some of the stickers that are also available through Michael's, but not all of them have a sentiment on it. You can, of course, just skip sentiments. If you don't want those on your card, the focal images would be enough. I just like to use a variety of things in my stash, so that's why I picked these out. I have this Hugs die from CZ Design and Simon Says Stamp, and I am gluing the word onto its shadow back outline there. And when I glue down these die cuts, I like to use my Pressure Pal, which you can use to apply pressure to your MISTI when you're stamping or your stamp platform. But Twiddler's Nook is going to be coming out with a cover that you can put on top of it because I like to press my die cuts down with that because it makes sure I get like even pressure across the whole die. Because when I use my fingers, first off, sometimes I get glue on my fingers and I spread it around. But also, I sometimes like miss a spot and then the S is flapping up later or something like that. So she's going to come out with a cover that you can put on top of the tool. So I'll link you to the Twiddler's Nook Etsy shop where I got my tool. But I just think that's a kind of a cool additional feature that you can use with your stamp press tool. So if you already have one, it should work out. But be careful because you might get a little bit of glue on your felt pad. I also picked a sentiment from MFT and I stamped it on some banners. So I have some die cuts and some banner sentiments. And then I am ready to get going on cutting. This particular paper pad is just a little bit smaller than 6 inches tall because if I cut it at 6 inches, you'll still see that perforation line. And so I needed to cut that off. And it took off, I think it was just 1/8 of an inch. But when you're working with no scrap templates where, you really need a very precise measurement, that's kind of a bummer. It totally worked. It wasn't a very big deal, but that's what I was trying to show you there, just as a heads up. And I'm not going to show you me cutting every single piece of paper because I'm just following the template. You get that template and it says, cut this paper to these exact measurements. Then there's the sketch, and the sketch says cut your cardstock mats to these measurements and then assemble. And so I'm going to kind of shortcut some of that and focus more on other tips and tricks and design things that I want to share. A lot of times when I'm working with a 6x6 paper pad, I will try to streamline the process. And I've done a little bit of that today. I have streamlined the process in terms of grouping things together, picking out all my templates at the same time, picking out just one stamp, like one sentiment stamp and one sentiment die cut, and just making a bunch of them ahead of time. Or I have chosen like that I'm going to use the stickers that I could purchase instead of coloring them all. And all those little things help to streamline it. Another thing that I often do to streamline is I pick one color of cardstock and I cut all the mats from the same color of cardstock. And that can help too, because then I'm not stopping and thinking, which one of these is the perfect cardstock for this pattern paper and getting any sort of analysis paralysis with that. But in this instance, I actually just decided to do the longer thing and pick a particular color of cardstock for each one, depending on what I thought it was. I was going to try to do black for everything because there is quite a bit of black in this collection, or quite a bit of papers that would go well with black. But in the end, I just didn't think it was perfect for each one of them. And I wanted to use some scraps. So sometimes that's what I'll do when I'm trying to pick out what cardstock I want to use. I'll think, okay, are there any colors of cardstock that I have a bunch of scraps for? Because if I do, that's a perfect occasion for trying to use it up by cutting these small little mats for these smaller, components like this one, particularly here. Everything is, usually these mats is quite small. There's no really big pieces, so it's a great scrap buster. And that was a little bit how I made the decisions today. It takes a little bit longer, but to me, it's worth it if it helps me get through some of those cardstock scraps. I am taking the stickers. These are cardstock stickers from Michael's Recollections. So they have a little bit more heft to them, which is nice. But they were really hard to peel the sticker backing off. The first time that I bought a pack of these, I actually did not even realize they were stickers. And I just put my own adhesive on the back, which you could totally do. I don't see there's any problem with that. But they are stickers. I did find that because they have this cut down the center, so you're supposed to be able to just easily peel it off. But I found that actually it was easier to peel from the sides and not the cut down the center. So if you're having a little trouble with these, 1, it's not just you. And 2, try instead peeling from the sides and see if that helps. So that was One Sheet Wonder number 4. Now I'm moving on to One Sheet Wonder number 5. And these are my A2 One Sheet Wonder, no scrap, whatever templates. So they'll all be linked in a blog post. At the bottom of this video, in the video description, you'll find a blog post, and I'll show you still pictures of each and every card. And then I'll link where you can find the template, and I'll also link some of the supplies as available. Here, I can't follow my own directions. I said the templates, the sketches tell you what size each mat should be. I cut the wrong size mats for all of those and had to go back. And I had cut all of these red mats from scraps. So I was really lucky I still had some scraps that were the right size, because I don't think I even had a full sheet left of this particular red cardstock that I picked. I am showing you the assembly of one of these cards, but for every template, so for One Sheet Wonder number 5, there are actually 2 cards. But I'm not showing you that because it would be the same exact thing over again. But you'll see there on the blog post, it'll show you that there are 2 of them, and that makes 10 cards in all. So if you're wondering where are the other 5 cards, that's kind of what happened there. And here I put a little bit of other scrap cardstock behind that, because that bigger panel was sort of overlapping those 2 strips, but not completely. There was a lot of it that would be hanging off the strips. And this makes everything nice and smooth and flat. So it's another way, if you have random cardstock scraps, that you can use them to help you get a little bit more of a finished look on your cards. So I, today, am working with a Valentine's paper, of course. And a lot of my cards do look pretty Valentine's Day. And in fact, there's a Happy Valentine's Day sticker and this truck that says Valentine's Day on it. So they're going to have to be Valentine's Day cards. But I asked you guys in a previous video, like, how many Valentines do you make? Who do you make them for? And I got a lot of people who are just like, I don't really have a lot of people to make Valentine's cards for. I always encourage people to consider donating their cards. I have a lot of resources on my blog to help you do that. So at jesscrafts.com, there's a thing at the top that says donate your cards, part of the menu. You can go there and find a list of organizations that accept card donations, and then you can, follow through to their website and find out their guidelines. And then I also have a bunch of sentiments and jokes that you can put inside your cards. So if you enjoy making Valentine's Day cards, but just don't have a lot of people to send them to, that's another great way to enjoy using your supplies. But not all the organizations need a ton of holiday cards. So I encourage you to think of ways that you can use your Valentine's supplies, but not make Valentine's specific cards. And I'm going to try to do that with some of my cards today so that I could glue a Valentine's joke or whatever inside of it, or instead I could add just a general sentiment to make it work. So this is One Sheet Wonder No Scrap template number 11. And this one actually has 2 different sketches, so you can decide which look you like better. In this instance, I kind of planned ahead. As I was crafting, I really wanted to use that Happy Valentine's Day sentiment sticker. So I decided that I would do the original sketch for this one instead of the alternate sketch, because it would give me a very big, clear focal panel to use. I am again going to, so you have these 2 little squares that you glue behind, and it will look like it's one big long strip behind the center panel, but it's actually 2 little pieces, because if you were to try to make it long enough to stick out, it wouldn't work out in the no scrap template way. So that's what's going on behind there. And I again use some cardstock to help prop everything up. And now I can use that Happy Valentine's Day sentiment sticker on top. And at this point, I have started peeling off the sentiment or the backings of those stickers ahead of time, especially when I knew what I wanted, so that I'm not struggling with it constantly on camera for you guys. The next one is the No Scrap template number 22. And I really like the way this template looks, but I do have a bit of a challenge of cutting it correctly. I created these little templates, but I cut a piece of cardstock so that it's the appropriate size for the measurements for how to create these little diagonal chunks. And I use that to help me, but you really need them to be going both ways. So if you notice on the template, it shows you the 2 diagonals pointing at each other, coming down. And it's really important that you cut it that way, because if you cut them both the same, so I'm sorry, this is so difficult to describe. I'm not enough of a spatial thinker to explain this, but if you cut both of them so that the short end is on the left instead of one with the short end on the left and one with the short end on the right, then they don't quite work. So you really need to follow this template closely. If you mess up the cutting, you can probably glue it in another way to make it work. And if you have double-sided paper, you can just use the other side and it doesn't really matter. But since this is single-sided paper, you kind of have to pay attention to that. And I messed it up, even though it's my template and I should know better. But I just want to give you a heads up about that, just because, again, it's something that you can easily, just cut them both the same, but you got to match it up with the template there. Okay, so trying to pick out what I'm going to use as the stickers. Little considerations, things that I'm thinking about when I'm picking stickers. That striped heart, really cute. I like it, but the striped heart on the striped paper isn't going to stand out as much, for example. So I wanted to pick a different heart. I also considered that it can be sometimes a little bit more difficult to adhere things to glitter. And some organizations ask you not to use any glitter. So I thought, well, if I use glitter, I might not get my hugs to stick because I was thinking I was going to layer it on top, which I didn't actually do, so it would have been fine. And I knew it might limit which organizations I could donate the cards to. Not to say that I won't use those glitter, but I'll just have to be aware of that. Okay, next one is template number 26. This one I love because it is so simple, so fast. If you need... Like if you're in one of those situations where you need a card in the next 5 minutes, this is the perfect one because you are cutting your paper into just 2 pieces. You're only using even 1 cardstock mat. I really like the little touch of the corner rounding, but you don't have to do that. And it gives you the perfect place to place your sentiment. It gives you a nice big background panel that you can layer an image over. Or if you have a really pretty pattern paper that you don't want to cover up, you want to use a nice big chunk of, this is perfect because most of it is still showing. So my ATG glue glider, I am placing it in a stand from an Etsy shop called Make It by Marco. I will link it in the video description. She did send it to me, but I use it because I like it. I like that it just keeps my glider off my desk because when I have a lot going on like I do right now with all of the, stickers and little sentiments and everything everywhere, I like to not have to put my glider back down on my desk because I will do things like put it on top of something with adhesive and it sticks to it, or I will crush and wrinkle something or whatever. So having that stand there as a place to always know that I can place my glider down in is really awesome. And you don't see it in every video, but I am using it most of the time that I'm using my glider. It's usually just off screen because, the glider is kind of big. It takes up a lot of room. So just wanted to, in case anyone's noticing that's there in the background, that's what that is. And I will try to remember to link it for you guys. Finish this up. This is a perfect example of one that I do not think would have to be a Valentine's card. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.